So, well, Maggie showed me like all of your kind of TikTok videos and all your stuff going on social media, and we were really amazed about how you've been engaging your students and staff online. Could you tell us what inspired that?
Actually, it was because our school district, when we closed down back in March 2020, um, trying to figure out how to get students engaged while at home,
Mm.
because during that time we didn't know what was happening or what was going to happen. So after about 3 weeks of us being off and like nothing going on, the district said, okay, well, we're going to have to try to start remote learning of some sort. Um, and so they did a virtual spirit week. And during that virtual spirit week, it was TikTok Tuesday. And I was like, I don't know about that. Like, I've never been on TikTok. I don't. All I know is it's a bunch of kids doing little dances, and I
That's
can't
my
dance.
understanding of TikTok.
So I was like, I don't know. So I downloaded it that Sunday night, and I'm like just scrolling through, and I was like, oh, it's so much more than just dancing.
Mm.
Like it really is. And so I saw a video, bored in the house, and I was like, oh, let me make a video. I'm bored in the house bored, because that's how everybody was.
Mm.
Um, and then for Tuesday, for TikTok Tuesday, I convinced one of my colleagues to do one of the viral dances with me. And we posted it, shared it, emailed it to our students. And then since then, like I just started making more and more TikToks. And so it became a way to reach them
Mm.
um, in the system that they were familiar with instead of trying to create a new system that
Mm.
they had no idea how to use.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Kind of taking advantage of something they're already using and using it
Right.
in an educational way, just repurposing it really. Could you tell us about some of the activities you've been doing on there and what the response has been like?
So some of them, like I will like do little like technology tips,
Mhm.
or I'll do little reminders for students, and then like I try to add some comedy to it to keep them engaged. Um, Last Halloween we did a whole like virtual like Halloween candy competition, so it was kind of like March Madness and like the basketball brackets, but we did candies. And so we had the school do Google Forms and vote on different candies and all that kind of stuff. And so I would make a TikTok video every time we had a new bracket release and all that.
Mhm.
Um, and then I've eventually kind of ventured off and just kind of started showing students and showing people like I'm a real person. I'm not just an assistant principal. I'm not just a teacher. Like I have a real life and I do more than just teach. So I've put out stuff like that. And it was funny because I was in a Zoom class on a Friday and all the kids were like, oh, do you know how you can get TikTok famous? Do you know how you can? I was like, I don't need your help. I can do it on my own. And the next day, I literally posted a collage video of me helping my friend do concrete steps, and within 48 hours it had over 1 million views, and
Oh.
it's now sitting at like 4.5 million views, and I'm like, I don't really know what I did, but I told the kids I know what I'm doing. And so like it's fun to just show like I have a personality and I'm more than just what they see in school, even though a
Mm.
lot of times they see the same thing in school. Because I mean, I don't put on a front for social media. It's just putting my real life out there.
Yeah, that's really cool. And actually, I bet I know, like when I was teaching, a lot of the students and stuff would be surprised if they ever saw me anywhere, like a supermarket or something like that. And it's like, what? You don't live in school? You're not like, you don't have like a normal life? So it must have been really cool for them to get an insight into some of the things you do, even if it was just helping with concrete steps or whatever it was. Just you don't just teach and just do all of your kind of principal duties. There's a lot more going on.
Right, exactly.
Brilliant. Could you, so obviously you've been doing some amazing stuff, but also I know a lot of your staff have been like really shining. Could you give us an example of one of your teachers really shining despite everything that's been going on?
I actually I'm going to give you two
Okay.
from like two different spectrums. So like when we shut down, when we shut down in 2020 of March 2020, about a week or 2 weeks later, one of our seasoned teachers, he came in to get a Chromebook, and got a Chromebook from the cart in his classroom, and then came to the office, and he like gave it to me, and he said, "How do I turn this on?" So like, I mean, he literally had been doing worksheets. He'd been doing overhead projector, like the transparencies. Like he did not use computers. And so he asked how to turn it on. So he would come in probably once a week and ask for help on doing this or getting on Google Classroom, doing Google Classroom and all that stuff. And then by the next school year, when we started and we were all virtual, he's leading Zoom classes and he's got Google Classrooms going. And, you know, like, so he would come into the school and do it from his classroom, even though teachers had the option to work from home. Because then that way I was in my office, and if he ever needed that support, he knew he could quickly get that support rather than him being at home. And so I commend him because then he retired at the end of last school year. So it's like he had 1 year left. He could have retired and not even put up with any of it.
Yeah.
But he definitely like tried new things and had a great year doing it. So that's one end. And then another end, the teacher, I mean, they've done incredible things. And so one teacher, she uses Pear Deck, and she uses that in conjunction with her Google Classroom and her Google Slides. And then she incorporates Flipgrid and like all kinds of other programs that give students a choice and a way to express their learning in multiple different ways. So like it was cool, like when she would give an assignment, some kids would send in a Google slideshow. Some kids would just send in like an answer after answer. And some kids would make a video and show their video of them doing the work. So I thought that was really great, like how the teacher is adapting what she does to then allow them to just show what they know instead of, oh, here's the 5 questions, you have to answer these 5 questions. Like, let them just show you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. It sounds like both of those teachers were really able to adapt to all the challenges of the pandemic and use those different tools in different ways. And yeah, I think you're right. I think kind of giving that ownership back to the students, you get so much more from it by just seeing what they know rather than that really directed learning. Speaking of pupils, like showing all their work in different ways, what are some examples you've had of the pupils really shining?
Some of that, like, because like the one that I can really like stands out greatly is from the art class. So the 2 art teachers, they would teach virtually on Zoom, and they would literally do like drawing lessons, and then they would have the students like hold up their drawings. Well, then they progressed to using different programs and having students use computer programs to do the drawings and graphics and all that. And the one assignment they took was kind of like a mosaic type assignment where they would take a portrait. And so the one teacher, she did, it was during Black History Month that they were working on it. And so they took a famous African American, and then they would do a mosaic picture of them. And it was all in black and white, very classy, very beautiful work that came from the students. And then the other teacher took that assignment then the following month and did it a little bit different and just do a self-portrait. And so seeing the kids do portraits of themselves, and then they had that in bright colors. I saw like the one student's artwork was amazing. And so I like told the teacher, I was like, oh my God, she was phenomenal. I would love to have her do one of my pictures. So the teacher like sent her like 3 or 4 pictures of me from my Facebook profile. And next thing I know, in my email, I have 2 like beautiful mosaic like artworks of myself. And I'm like I even told the student, I was like, I need to pay you for this because this is like beautiful art that you can make money doing this.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where all those students go because it was more than just that one. There were so many in that were shining through.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'd love to see some pictures of those mosaics. They sound really cool.
Yeah.
I bet it was really lovely to have your own personal one made by the students as well. It's always really lovely when they do something like that for you.
Right. So I don't know if you can see it, but like, so here's here's the
There's
picture
you,
of
yeah.
me, okay? And then here was the artwork that the student did.
Oh, wow.
So it literally, like, I mean,
Yeah.
she did it all on the computer, and it's amazing.
It is.
You know, 12 and 13 years old doing this kind of amazing work.
That's mind-blowing, like the level of what they can do.
Right.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's stunning. So I said before that me and Maggie really loved your TikTok videos. Do you have any particular favorite ones?
Of myself or others?
Yours, or you can mention some others as well if you want.
It's cool because like I have some favorite videos or I have some favorite like people that I follow. Of course, like when you get on TikTok, you'll just start falling down the rabbit hole. And so then there are some people that I follow that are like some favorites, and like I follow a lot of different educators and they do a lot of educator content. But then there's a lot that do their own personal lives too. But like some of my favorite ones that I've done, back when I first started during Teacher Appreciation Week, I did a different video for pretty much every content. So I did a math video, I did a English video, I did a social studies, and so those were some of my favorites that I did in that little series of the subjects. But then like I just posted one yesterday because I was at my parents' house helping them get Christmas lights hung on the roof and stuff. And so my mom said, I'm going to make you dinner. And so she made meatloaf. So, of course, when Ma makes the meatloaf, all I'm thinking is wedding crashers. So I, of course, had to make a little TikTok video. So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, Ma, the meatloaf. And then at the end of the video, here's my mom pulling the meatloaf out of the oven. So like it just little things like that I get it in my head. Like I'm like, oh, this is a moment I can take and make a video out of it and just put my own little twist on it. And that's essentially like what a lot of TikTok is like someone will create a dance and then it's up to you to kind of take that and like put your own little twist on it, So I just love seeing and being inspired by that, but then also I'm inspired by like everyday life. And then like I always have a soundtrack in my head. So I'm always like, oh, this song would go with this, or this song would go with this. And then so now I have a note page in my phone that is literally titled TikTok ideas. And when I'm out and I'm like, oh, let me add that to my idea list. Like maybe I can make a video like that.
I love it. That's brilliant. Yeah, and I'm sure like all the music definitely helps as well, having the little soundtracks going. Puts everyone in a good mood. You see, you were talking about your students' beautiful art, and that reminded me that your school actually hosted a virtual art exhibit last year, didn't they? Could you tell us a bit more about that?
So that was one of those things too that we're trying to reach our community, and show like what great things are happening, because there was times like when during this whole thing, it's like students aren't learning, they're not doing stuff, they're playing games on their computers, they're not logging into classes, they're not learning. So we wanted to like show and like try to figure out how we can show and display like great things that we were doing. And so the art teacher, she came up with this idea of doing an art exhibit, because we had talked about doing an art exhibit in conjunction with our band concert or our choir concert. So when we have our concerts, she wants to display art in our lobbies so that it's a whole production. Because she couldn't do that because we never ended up being in person, we never had concerts, she thought of a different way to do an art exhibit. So she took all of her different projects. And so this project particularly was Pinwheels for Peace. And so the Pinwheels for Peace project is, I believe, an international project where students make and decorate pinwheels. And then it all has different meanings to incorporate looking for peace. And so she did a Zoom lesson for students on how to make a pinwheel, but then each piece of the pinwheel had to have specific artwork on it. And so with that, she then would have students take pictures of it using their webcams. And so she got all the pictures of them, or she would have videos of them spinning it so they can see it. And so she combined it all into a video. And then we did a YouTube live for this particular video. But we set the YouTube live up in advance. So we had a whole little flyer, like we would email it out to parents, we posted it on our Twitter, you know, and so like we tried to get this message out that there's going to be a YouTube live event. And so then I made a couple TikTok videos like promoting it. And then the day of the show, you're logging onto YouTube, and then there's a 30-minute countdown for the show's going to start. And you can see in the chat box on the right, all these people that are logging in and like, I can't wait to see the work. I'm so excited. And so like people from all over our district, people from really all over the world logged in because kids were so excited that their artwork was going to be on display, and it was a like world premiere. So like that was really cool. And so unfortunately though, like with the YouTube live and all that, because of the licensing and all that, with district buying the license and you know who has the license, like it takes a lot of work in order to do that. So we didn't do as many as we were wanting to, but we put it out there and did it, and it was a great thing to do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I actually love seeing the video as well. It's so cool to see all those pinwheels and all the work they've done. And yeah, it was really beautiful actually, and really peaceful. Like just sort of watching them going around, and really lovely to see all those messages.
Right, and I think too, I think she even had the class vote on like the music in the background and like the whole production of it. So like she really like it was fantastic.
Beautiful. So what would your advice be for other educators or administrators that might want to improve online engagement?
Be afraid to fail. Like I've taken videos on TikTok and I failed. And so I've just kept trying, and then finally I get when I'm like, okay, I can put this out there. And then I'm like, and then there's some that there was one, I was trying to do this little thing on TikTok and I was wheeling in my laundry basket, and next thing I know I fell, and I'm like, you know what? It's a blooper. It's real life. Let me just post it. Y'all can make fun. Like, and then like sometimes you have to be vulnerable. And so, I mean, because then there's going to be comments, and there's going to be haters, there's going to be naysayers, and you just have to be able to block that out, because you are going to be reaching someone. And that's something that like I've been excited that I've been able to reach some of these students and even other teachers that I've never thought about reaching out to or them reaching out to me. So, like be vulnerable and just give things a try.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that advice. Oh, sorry, I'm echoing. But
Go for it, Maggie.
sorry about that. Because I think coming from a teaching background as well, you get so used to, you have to be the expert up in the front. You have to know everything, that we get so nervous about putting ourselves out there, about not knowing how to do something. But I love that your stories so far have been about teachers who didn't know how to use like the Google Chromebook, and not what do you do with this, what do you do with that, and the fact that people are forced into doing different things, that you learn how to do so much. So I think not being afraid to fail is great advice for everybody. And then just learn from your failures.
Exactly. Well, and I think too, especially for teachers, they're so caught on the like, are they going to get in trouble, or are they going to lose their job, or are they going to get a demerit of some sort from their administrator, like if they fail? So they want to stay in that comfort zone, or they stay where they know they can do good. But if you push yourself and try something different, it might be great. So instead of just going for that good, you could go for great, and then you might have a completely different route that you can take then at that point. So
yeah, absolutely. I know when I was teaching, I struggled with fear of failure, but actually I found those times when you really did push yourself and do something new, actually those were often the most rewarding when it then worked out in the end. Sometimes you found something that just really worked like much better than you thought. So yeah, it's definitely really good advice for not even just using online tools really, but anything within the education profession is just don't be afraid to fail. Give that a try. So you mentioned obviously you've been able to reach lots of different teachers, students. Have you found using social media platforms has had any impact on communication with parents?
Yes.
That's a definite yes.
Yes. It's been funny because I've had some like student parent meetings this year. And so since we're back in person, we can have those in person at times. And so like I've had like one parent in particular, she was like, my daughter and I watch your TikTok videos all the time. And so like the one parent was like, oh, I saw you on TikTok, and then it just kind of gives them a sense of relief that they kind of know me. So instead of coming in like, oh, you're the assistant principal, you're the guy that's going to do discipline, like, or coming in aggressive, they're like, oh, like I know you're a real person, so I'm not just going to come in and yell and scream and be upset because of this situation or that situation. Like it really has been a sense of calming in a way through TikTok. And then, like I said, I have a Twitter too, that my Twitter I only use for like educational purposes. And so like I like follow local community people, I follow education professionals and all that kind of stuff. And so I run our school's Twitter, but then I have my personal Twitter for education. And I have one of my parents now, like he'll send me messages on Twitter and DM to communicate with me because it's easier for him than email, or it's easier for him than a phone call. So now, and so I told him up front, I was like, I don't use Twitter that much, but if this is how you prefer, I'll turn on my notifications so that way I won't miss something from you, but at the same understand, like, I'll check it from this time to this time, because again, like boundaries are important too. So even though I'm putting myself out there on social media and I have that level of engagement, I still want to set those boundaries where I'm not responding at 1 a.m. or I'm not expected to respond at 1 a.m. on messages and stuff that I get on there.
Yeah, it makes sense that actually it's in different ways you can reach the parents that might be easier. But I do really like what you said about boundaries as well, because I think sometimes when you open yourself up to those ways of communicating, it's very easy to fall into a trap of being expected to always respond. So I think as long as everyone's clear about it, it's a really good way to keep in touch. And I guess you said as well, I thought it was really nice how you said they see you more as a person now. So they've kind of got to know you more. And I guess that's probably helped strengthen your relationships with the parents in school.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. So you said before you're an assistant principal. How has COVID impacted on your role, and how do you manage your day-to-day responsibilities?
COVID has had a big impact on the day-to-day, whether it's checking students for symptoms because they come to the office and they're coughing. So it's now, well, you're coughing. So now I have to go through all this symptom checker. Now, if you meet so many symptoms, I have to put you in isolation and then call your parent, get you picked up. You're now quarantining. If you have siblings, they have to quarantine. If you test positive, now we have to contact trace. And so it's really put a lot of work on us as administrators, but then also on our nurses. And so our district fortunately has formed a partnership with the Children's Hospital here in Columbus. And so we have outside nurses contracted in to help do contact tracing now. So that kind of is a sense of relief that we can start kind of getting back to some of those normal things that we did before. But again, we don't want to go back to what we had before. We want to keep moving things forward. So it's allowing us now more time to get into classes, or it's giving us time to actually work through SEL learning, so the social and emotional stuff, because now all of our students have been impacted in some type of way. We've had students that lost siblings. We've had students that lost parents, grandparents. So I mean, we've been through it, not just in our school, but within our community and in our district. Within our district, we've lost teachers. And so it's tough because everywhere is dealing with COVID, but some don't see the impact of it if it doesn't affect them directly. So until it does affect them directly, they still might not understand the impact of it. So like some of the safety protocols that we have in place, like wearing a mask, some students are very reluctant and do not wear their mask properly until they see the actual impact in their own way. I don't know if they will wear their mask properly, so it's things like that that has really affected how we teach and how we do discipline, and how we do just restorative practices and try to get them just living in a world civilly, and not behind a computer screen. So that it's really made a big impact on relationships, I would say too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said about not really understanding unless it's impacted them directly, I think that's kind of true for a lot of people, that they're kind of seeing a lot of numbers rather than actual individuals that have been impacted by it. And it must be really hard if there are losses within the school and the community, and that's on top of all the other pressures that you have anyway in day-to-day school life. So there's a lot there that you're having to deal with.
Right.
So trying to uplift it a little bit after that. Do you have any top tips for using technology that other educators and administrators might be able to benefit from?
I would say, like, reading the tutorials sometimes. Like as much like I hate saying that, like there's some like programs or apps that I've like had to use now that I've had to take the time to read the tutorial and look at the helpful tips because otherwise like there's been times where I'm like, oh, let me log in and let me just play around with it and figure it out and I'll go from there. But if you actually read some of how to do it, it does help. But then there are times when it is just a matter of getting on and trying it. So like with TikTok, it's a matter of just getting on and trying it. Like you can read as much as you want about it, but until you actually make one, you might not really understand. So like when I first started making them, the principal and my other assistant principals in my building, they would comment and say, you have a 1 hour time limit on TikTok today because you got other work to do. I was like, well, this is work. I'm engaging our community, I'm engaging our students. But then after I like got on for a while, I was making TikTok videos in 5-10 minutes, you know? And so like some of the videos are 15 seconds long and it literally took me 15 seconds to make it because there's not a lot more you have to do with some of them. So it's a matter of just thinking outside the box and kind of doing something that you want to, and just dealing with the fear of what will be. And so some of those things, like some of the comments you get on the videos and stuff, they can be hurtful. And so it's a matter of then, like what I've been doing too is I've been teaching students about that, where like I've had students comment on some of my videos and it's not appropriate. So when I see them at school the next day, I'm like, hey, let's chat about that comment you made. And they're like, I'm like, so what you say online matters. And just because you're behind a computer or behind a phone doesn't mean you can say all kinds of things. So it's become a teaching experience within itself as well, in that sense, in that regard. So what I would say for people wanting to get on and do different things, like I said, just think about all of the ways it can be positive before you show or give it a no for the one way that you know it's negative. So like in middle school, there's drama in middle school. It's middle school. And so Instagram has been a big source of drama. Well, let's think of positive ways it can be impactful and ways we can use it as a teaching tool before we just completely shut it down because it's negative or because of this comment or that comment. So I think that is helpful if you look at it through a different lens. And so our school for years now has been in a growth mindset mind frame. So we always try to flip it and be, well, here's the negative way to do this. What can we do positively to change it?
Absolutely. And as you said before, those students are using those platforms anyway. So it's actually a really good way to reach them. And if you look at the positive aspects, then yeah, you can take it in that direction. So that really makes a lot of sense.
Right.